blast took place in Kabul at a Chinese restaurant on Monday, killing at least one Chinese national and 6 Afghan citizens. The attack was later claimed by Islamic State Khorasan, the local affiliate of the Islamic State group operating in Afghanistan. But this was not a siloed attack. In fact, over the past few months, Chinese nationals and Chinese assets across Afghanistan and Tajikistan have increasingly come under attack, partly to undermine Beijing's expanding business interests in the region and partly driven by religious extremism, with groups like ISIS-K explicitly targeting China over its treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang. However, together these developments are emerging as a serious challenge to China's security, its overseas investments, and President Xi Jinping's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative. China's embassy in Tajikistan issued an urgent travel warning on the very same day as the Kabul bombing. Chinese citizens and companies were told to boost security and evacuate border regions as soon as possible. The warning came after 4 gunmen were killed while attempting to cross into Tajikistan from Afghanistan, highlighting how fragile security has become along the border. Central Asia's poorest country, Tajikistan, has a weak military and shares a long and porous border with Afghanistan, making it a key vulnerability for China. Since the Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan in 2021, the situation along the Afghan-Tajik border has remained highly unstable. Cross-border clashes have flared up regularly, with both sides accusing each other of sheltering hostile forces. At the same time, armed militant groups have exploited the rugged terrain and limited border controls to operate in the region, creating a complex and dangerous security environment. At least 5 Chinese workers were killed in 2 separate attacks in Tajikistan's border regions in November last year. However, Tajik authorities traced down the originations of these attacks to Afghanistan's Badakhshan province. In the first incident, assailants crossed the border and stormed the compound of a Tajik-Chinese private gold mining company in Khatlon region, killing 3 Chinese employees. Just 4 days later, another group of militants crossed into Tajikistan at night and launched an assault on Chinese workers employed by the state-owned China Road and Bridge Corporation in Darwoz, killing at least 2 more people, but no group claimed responsibility for the attacks. Tajik border guards described the attackers as criminal groups, while the Taliban later said 2 suspects had been arrested and suggested that certain groups seeking to harm Afghanistan's relations with other countries could be behind the attacks. Chinese nationals are present in Afghanistan and Tajikistan largely because of Beijing's expanding economic footprint. Chinese companies have invested heavily in infrastructure, mining, road construction and energy projects in Tajikistan, and investments that form a critical part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Tajikistan's strategic location makes it an important transit corridor linking China with Central Asia. But that same geography places Chinese workers in high-risk border areas, and many of these Chinese ventures are small, private or lightly protected, making them an easy target. According to the experts, these attacks will have a negative impact on Chinese investment in the border region. While Taliban and Tajikistan both have beefed up security across their borders, it is not feasible to cover the entire border as it stretches more than 1,300 kilometers and security capabilities on both sides remain limited, which makes Beijing's ambitious BRI project highly vulnerable. The Kabul restaurant bombing added a new layer of concern. ISIS-K, which claimed responsibility, said it was targeting Chinese nationals in retaliation for Beijing's treatment of Uyghurs, a predominantly Muslim ethnic minority in China's Xinjiang region. The group also criticized the Taliban's engagement with China. ISIS-K has actively sought recruits from Central Asian countries and from Uyghurs in Xinjiang, turning Chinese citizens and assets into symbolic targets to draw international attention. China denies accusations of mistreating Muslim groups, saying its policies in Xinjiang are aimed at combating extremism and terrorism. China shares only a short mountainous border with Afghanistan, much of it snowbound for large parts of the year, but the much longer 477-kilometer border between Xinjiang and Tajikistan crosses varied terrain and has become increasingly vulnerable due to regional instability. Any spillover of militancy threatens not just Chinese investments abroad, but also security in China's sensitive western regions. Beijing maintains strong relations with Tajik President Emomali Rahmon. China has become Tajikistan's largest trading partner, overtaking Russia last year, and security cooperation has deepened through joint training exercises, border patrols, and counter-terrorism drills. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has pledged to strengthen joint border patrols to prevent the infiltration of terrorist forces and build what he called a strong security shield. Experts say the threat to Chinese citizens and assets along the border is likely to persist. Militant groups such as ISIS-K may continue targeting Chinese interests to gain attention and rally supporters. While Beijing is unlikely to disengage from the region, it may move to more tightly regulate Chinese investments and enhance security arrangements. But as instability continues across Afghanistan and Central Asia, China now faces a growing dilemma of protecting its people and projects without slowing down President Xi Jinping's most ambitious Global Belt and Road Initiative. With Harsh Mishra, Bureau Report, India Today Global.